Hello, once again, Martin Popoff here for the Contrarians with our little mini show inside the Contrarians called Reliving Old Reviews as a Useless Tool of Confusion. I'll leave that to you to figure out where that quote comes from. Thanks very much again to Chris Jackson for sending these reviews in for me to assess. This is the show where we look at an old review to see if the writer got it right on an album that became absolutely massive or a big deal, and we definitely have one of those this time. We are talking about Black Sabbath's Heaven and Hell. And of course, you can get my Black Sabbath books. I don't know where the first one is, but anyways, Born Again, Black Sabbath in the 80s and 90s. The first one's called Sabotage, Black Sabbath in the 70s. You can get all those at martinpopoff.com. This is a review in Sounds. Remember, Sounds did a great job with heavy metal leading up to Kerrang. I have my first copy of Kerrang here. Leading up to Kerrang coming out in, what does it say there? June 1981, Sounds was covering all this heavy stuff. Black Sabbath obviously is in a new wave of British heavy metal band, but they're an honorary one when it comes to the new look. Ronnie coming into the band, Heaven and Hell, 1980, the greatest year of the new wave of British heavy metal when it all kind of kicked off. So this is a review in Sounds by the great Pete Makowski, awesome legend of our scene. Very cool. We get a picture, the new look, Sab's pulsing with youthful enthusiasm. And we get a heading, Heaven Tonight, which of course is going to be a great Wasted song at some point later on. Love those guys. So let's take a look at this review. I haven't seen this review for a long time. I'm kind of going in cold, or at least going in cold with this exercise. Let's see what Pete has to say about the shocking new Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio fronting the band. So, he says, up until recently, Sabbath, with an F, they often do that, right? Did really become one of the lumbering dinosaurs of HM. Blundering around blindly after having been struck down with the repeated departures and returns of lead singer and arch maniac Ozzy Osbourne, their future looked pretty bleak. Even bass player and Aston Villa supporter Geezer Butler split for a while. Got a run-on sentence there, but yeah, it's funny. We don't know this stuff, but we didn't know this stuff. But Pete's there on the ground, boots on the ground. He knows that there's issues with Ozzy in, Ozzy out. Geezer. It seemed like one of the innovators, Black Sabbath, had a baby and called it New Wave HM. Pretty interesting. We don't have new wave of British heavy metal kind of mentioned in there, but that's what's going on. We're about to fade away into oblivion. Gaspo. Before you hang up your crosses and burn your denims, I can proudly announce that the Sabs are back in the saddle again and have returned with easily their finest since Master of Reality. With the departure of Osbourne, who is reportedly at this moment at the process of forming a group to be called Blizzard of Oz, the band have made a choice move by getting ex-Rainbow, as if you didn't know, vocalist Ronnie James Dio, who has injected a whole new energy into the group. Absolutely, that's what you get with Ronnie into this band. You definitely get an energy coming in. Produced by Rainbow, Purple, etc. Engineer Martin Birch. This is the cleanest and technically classiest offering from the Children of the Grave. Absolutely, Pete gets that right. It is super clean and gleaming and no fat and self-aware. I've often said that the unpredictable creativity of Black Sabbath died. Would Never Say Die. There was a lot of that throughout the 70s and even particularly on Never Say Die. And just to go back, he says, finest album since Master of Reality. A lot of young fans now, next generation Sabbath fans consider this the greatest Sabbath album of all time. Masters. He says Masters of Reality. Yeah, it's Master of Reality, right? But I love that album to death. Not enough heavy songs on it though. And it's a little short. It's something that's been bothering me about Rush Permanent Waves lately as well too, right? But I always call Sabotage my favorite Sabbath album. Bloody Sabbath's amazing. And I even love Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. But that was his choice. Let's see. The album opens up with Neon Nights, which rocks along a similar vein to Rainbow's Kill the King, absolutely. And throughout the record, it becomes evident how much identity Dio gave Rocky Blackhead's crew. Pretty cool. Yeah, definitely. Ronnie is all over this album. We know this is an album where Ronnie is also writing the lyrics, and he's the lead singer. He's the front man. He's a big part of this band. And yeah, he's almost half, I would almost say he's half of Black Sabbath's identity at this point, right? With the other half split between, a lot of Tony. Bill doesn't sound particularly Bill Ward-like on this album, and Geisler is, if he's not writing the lyrics, he's kind of just the bass player, right? So yeah, Ronnie's half this record, right? And it's pretty interesting that Ronnie went to his grave loving this album to death and almost thinking it was the greatest thing he ever was on, right? So he doesn't care that it doesn't say Dio on the tin. He thinks this is the greatest thing he ever did, right? Okay, people might think the Sabs are doing a rip, but any suspicion will immediately be quashed by Children of the Sea, which opens up innocently enough with some gentle acoustic guitar, but the intro is soon smashed apart with a thunderous riff that proves they haven't lost that finger-snapping whine and second-all-popping doom-laden bop. There you go. There's some good writing from Pete. The title track, All 7 Minutes, is one of the album's peaks, showing a marked improvement in guitarist Tony Iommi, who is a fine songwriting partner for Dio, absolutely. Although Ron is the only new member, Bill Ward and Geezer Butler perform drumming and bass duties respectively. In some ways, this is a new band. Dio doesn't delve into the cosmic aspects, as Roger Glover described them, of subject matter as one would expect, although his large voice and approach give the songs a sense of grandeur, and the rest of the Sabs don't plod along like rhinos on medication. Absolutely. Rhinos on medication is, that was one of the great things about Sabbath in the 70s, and this is not a plodding album. Everything has a spring in its step, and Ronnie is probably the inspiration for why that is. This is high energy with some proverbial barnstormers like Die Young, which has a chorus that will have all you fans banging your heads on the beams. Yeah, that is my favorite song on the album. In a similar rocking vein, we have Lady Evil and Wishing Well, which along with Neon Nights would make fine singles. Wishing Well is one a lot of people don't like very much on this album. Lady Evil, both could be singles, definitely, and Neon Nights. The album closes with Lonely is the Word, featuring a dose of over-the-topness from both Iommi and Dio, which in some ways makes it reminiscent of Rainbow. Some little scruffy office boys say the guitar break is like Stairway to Heaven. Interesting, I got to check that out. I, of course, immediately clipped him on the ear and sent him back down to the post room, although he did have a point. I thought it sounded more like Stargazer, but sod the comparisons. I would like to go and compare to both of those. That's pretty cool of Pete to point that out. Dio sounded the same when he was playing in New York bars with a band called Elf, and the Sabbath certainly weren't wimps prior to his joining. The album shows that after 12 years, the Sabs haven't lost that vital punch, which will send any respectable HM aficionado, I never liked that HM thing, crawling on his knees in orgasmic ecstasy and knocks your average current crop of leather-clad, chain-swinging outfits into a cocked hat. Just sit back, turn it up, and feel your brain implode as Dio, Iommi, Butler, and Ward bury you in an avalanche of some of the heaviest sounds around. Absolutely. It is a very heavy album, even for 1980. Very cool review. Pete, of course, gets it right. Pete knows what he's talking about. There you go, Heaven and Hell. Looks like he gave it 4 stars, presumably out of 5 stars for sounds, right? So there you go. Great review. This has been another edition of Reliving Old Reviews. Is a useless tool of confusion. Let me know in the comments below if Pete got this right, if I got this right on Pete's review, and what you think of Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. Comments is always a cool thing for the algorithm, apparently. Like and subscribe. We've got merch. We've got a Patreon situation as well. You join our Patreon, and that gets you into being on our panels. Some of our panels are the greatest shows we've ever done, and that's with you guys from the Patreon. So we thank you very much. Martin Popoff signing off for the Contrarians.